Howdy YouTube. Today we're going to do a variation on a theme. Last time we looked at how to make a Swedish fire torch, and that got me to thinking, what's the smallest size a Swedish fire torch can be and still be useful for cooking? So today we're going to try a smaller version and see what happens. Stand by for more fun with fire on Apple Stump Bushcraft Stuff and Things. Okay, just for statistical purposes, here's the wood. It weighs about 1.25 ounces, maybe 1.5 ounces, and it is 2 3/4 inches long. You have to trust me on this one, it's going to be hard for you to read. It's about 7.5 inches in circumference. So let's get started. Okay, for batoning this, and we are going to baton it rather than use the hatchet, we're going to use this Gerber camp knife. And a stout shillelagh. Split pretty easy, it's very dry. Here you can see the heartwood, or the pith, right here. That's the heartwood, but this is dry from end to end and side to side. So there we have it pretty much. So again, here's the top, so we're going to go and carve a little bit out. Maybe about that much. Yeah, pretty much that's what we have now. A nice hole in the middle. In this case, I think we're going to put some fine shavings off a piece of fat wood, maybe a few feather stick feathers, I guess you would call it, off a piece of fat wood. And that'll be our tinder. Cool thing about these is that if you're going to make them in advance and maybe take them with you to a formal campground out in the forest, or make a few and take them with you in your pack, you can always put a rubber band around them, hold them together so the pieces don't get separated until you're ready to use them. And until you get your kindling in there and everything, you take the rubber band off, set it down on whatever surface you're going to use it, and light it up. If you happen to catch our other video on tinders, you might have seen us starting a fire this with fat wood shavings. But I think I have just about enough. For this little tiny Swedish fire torch, I think this is more than sufficient. Okay. So it's packed down in there pretty good. And what I can do is put a cotton ball or even a little bit more scratchings off the fat wood stick down inside of there to make a fine tinder that'll catch a spark, although I think that might. But we want it kind of up to the top. Okay, it's too windy for us to trust this not to throw sparks where we don't want them, so we put it in this old barbecue grill to kind of contain the fire and also block the wind a little bit. And this is full of shavings off a fat wood stick. Let's see if we can get them to go with the ferro rod. Usually that's not a problem. Today it seems to be. There we go. I think it's going to go out. So we're going to cheat a little bit, I guess. But you got to do what you got to do to get the fire going. So, cut the rubber band, put a few bigger shavings of fat wood on there. And we're going to use a match. Remember, this is just an experiment. Okay. So, what do we do with the cut rubber band? Might as well make the most of it, right? Kind of sucks when that molten rubber gets on you. Now we just don't have the air circulation in there that's necessary, so we don't know the meaning of the word give up. We'll try something else. Okay, so we've cut up some more fat wood pieces, and we'll drop them in there. This really is kind of an upside down fire, isn't it? In that you start it at the top and it burns down toward the bottom. These are old MRE matches and they don't have a lot of pizzazz left in them. They barely even strike, much less. Okay. We have ignition. But is it sufficient to set that wood on fire? And I don't think it's going to be. It doesn't get hot enough inside that small area to set the main wood on fire. But as I said, we never say never. Alright, this time we're going to try a little different tack on that. Fire starter of my own making. And what it is a cotton patch that's soaked with bag balm. It'll burn for a long time. The question is, will there be enough heat there to start that little bit of wood? So we're not afraid for this not to work, because the question was initially, will it? So we're going to find that out. And away we go. So is this a practical alternative for backpacking to have a couple of these in your pack, or if you find branches along the trail, make them? Well, first of all, you have to have a saw or at least a knife so you can baton a short piece like that. And secondly, a lot of patience. And third, I think you'd be better off if you can get one with something more like a stump, or at least a sizable limb, 5 or 6 inches in diameter, and maybe 8 to 10 inches tall, This may work. I wouldn't recommend making one this small for cooking. Might be alright for hand warming. Yeah, that's pretty warm. And I think we can say that the wood itself is now involved in that, so that's pretty good. A lot of people, myself included, carry cotton balls or patches soaked with Vaseline, and I use bag balm a lot in their emergency kit, so that's a good fire starter. If you have those with you, then perhaps you can make a Swedish fire torch, should we say a torchette, this big or this little. That might be sufficient to boil a cup of water or a tin of water. But you'd want to have something to hold your vessel above the level of the burning wood, or else you'd probably smother the fire. What we did was moved it off the steel pan and onto the barbecue grill, and that way I can shut the lid on this and let it burn out safely without throwing a bunch of sparks. That'll just burn out the coals and it'll be fine. Well, that's how you do it, or that's how you don't do it. Your choice. It was an interesting experiment. I think we found that it could work under ideal conditions. It's getting ready to rain here right now, so I'm going to pack up and go back inside. Looking forward to the time when I can get back in the forest. Right now it's too wet and too snowy up there still. So I'm going to get out of the rain, and we'll see you folks later. Thanks for watching.